All right, your weather guy back with another video update. So we're gonna just talk about the tropics, what we're kind of looking for down the road a little bit. Getting pretty late in the hurricane season, but we might have one more threat to watch. So we'll touch on that and just talk about the weather pattern as well. But first, if you haven't yet, please hit that subscribe button. Please continue to help that channel grow. I'd greatly appreciate it. Going into the wintertime, I'm going to have updates on the overall weather pattern going in the winter, kind of what to expect with that. But first, let's go ahead and talk about the tropics. So this is the GFS, and I don't usually like looking at the GFS at 360 hours, but there's a reason why I'm showing you guys this today. So this is the GFS at 360. And what's just showing is we've got a tropical system, tropical storm, maybe hurricane here in the Gulf of Mexico. Now this is going to change. The GFS at 360 is going to change probably 20 times between now and then, maybe if not more. But again, there's a reason I'm showing you this, as I think it is a possible scenario, and we'll talk about why. But here's the GFS. So this is 360. So this is now going into early November. So getting up towards election time as well. That'd be interesting if we have the hurricane striking this part of the country around election time. But we'll see. It's a possibility. So and then pulls it, brings it up the coast. So now the reason I'm showing you this is we'll switch over here to the GFS ensembles, right? So this is GFS. It's run like 31 times. So these are different model outputs of that run. As we go late into hurricane season, the Caribbean's really the hot spot for development. And the GFS ensemble, so this is now early November, and if we pop in here, we can see it is seeing something. European ensembles, the Canadian ensembles also agree that there might be something trying to get going in the Caribbean, which is not unusual at all. So then the question is going to be, does this thing come north, right? If something does develop, does that get pulled northward? And as we just saw in the GFS was saying, yeah, it's a possibility. And the reason the GFS did that is if you remember with Helene, we had an upper level trough that was digging through the central part of the United States, the lower Mississippi Valley, high pressure off the East Coast, and it kind of opened up this lane, pulled it north. It was really the only way for it to go. Well, the GFS had the last run, the reason it had it kind of scooting through Florida and up the southeast coast there is that it also had that a big trough kind of digging down to the southern part of the United States and then pulled that thing northward. So this is a long ways out at this point, and certainly this is not an imminent threat. But there's nothing to talk about at this point. So kind of looking down the road at what could possibly happen. So that's going to be something that we're going to watch going forward. And then obviously, early November, election day right around the corner there. So it's going to be interesting. But we'll see how that kind of develops. Now switching over to the overall weather pattern here, pretty quiet. We're going to have some snow in Utah. How about that early season snow up in New England, New York, Vermont, even actually the mountains of North Carolina, Virginia got the first snowfall of the season. So that was always pretty cool to see with the snow, contrast of the fall colors. So beautiful pictures coming out of there. But there are a lot of people in North Carolina without power. So that's probably just insult to injury to them. But there were beautiful pictures coming out of there. So as we go forward, it's going to get pretty quiet. High pressure is really going to dominate the scene, and the GFS is taking down a pretty vigorous upper level trough as we go into the end of October, and that's actually the same trough that's going to cut down in the southeastern part of the United States and bring that storm up. So it remains to see if that happens, but if the European, or I should say the GFS is right here, could be an early season snowstorm in the central Rockies. Maybe down to the Central Plains as well. If this is correct, maybe a severe outbreak, as there's going to be a pretty big contrast of cold and warm temperatures there. So, but again, this is a long ways out. Other than that, the pattern's pretty quiet going forward through the rest of the month. As far as temperatures go, so we have the pretty impressive cold shot, the eastern part of the United States right now. And that very unseasonably cold actually in some places, bringing that early season snowfall. That is going to get eaten away, and we're going to warm up in a big way in parts of the country. You can see all those reds and those bright colors there. So the rest of the month for a good part of the country is going to be pretty warm. This was to be expected A few weeks ago, I actually did a video update, and I thought that we would see a pretty significant cool shot sometime around the middle of the month. But I did think that October as a whole was going to be warm, warmer than normal for a good part of the country. As we head towards the end of October, the GFS really wants to cool things down a little bit, still above normal, but I would not be surprised, if we see this much cooler than what the GFS ensembles are actually showing. And that's going to be another video coming out. We're going to do an update on the overall kind of weather pattern going into November, but lots of things to look at. Things are evolving. And then so one of the reasons I think it could be a lot colder is of the recent GFS ensembles that just came out is really starting to build some ridging here. You can see the orange right there in the western part of the country, which could help to funnel cooler air down to the eastern part of the United States. But it'll be interesting to see what happens with this ridging here. That some models are showing maybe that ridging building up into over Greenland and northern Canada, which would be a negative NAO. So that's going to be really interesting to watch as we go into November. And models are trying to figure out what to do with the pack jets. There's a lot going on right now, and the models seems like we're headed towards a pretty big pattern change. The models are having a hard time getting a handle on some of these things. So over the next couple of days, going to really take in a lot of that data, put another video update out for the pattern going into November. So that's it for today. Please hit that subscribe button so you can get those future notifications. And if things develop in the tropics, going to be putting more videos out about that as well. Thanks for watching. See you next time.